Welcome to the Pineapple Perspective. I'm your host, Troy Hooper. This is sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants. This is a unique scenario as this show is evolving. We have this great opportunity and decided to do a three-part series where I interviewed both of these gentlemen separately, and those shows will be linked in the bio below. So go check those out. But I thought it very valuable to bring both of these gentlemen together and talk about supply chain, talk about what matters when you think about where you buy your food. Why do you buy your food for your restaurant from where you do? And quite frankly, when you buy it for at home, why do you do that? And I think there's people out there who think a lot more conscientiously about the food they buy for their home, where they buy it, they read the labels. But when they go to a restaurant, they really just rely on the restaurateur. And the question is are our restaurant partners out there doing the best they can? That's the crux of the conversation. I have a phenomenal couple of gentlemen here to talk about Greener Pastures Chicken. I found Greener Pastures Chicken. I should say they found me probably a little over a year ago, coming to know them, coming to learn about this concept in the supply chain. I've always been very, very interested in the supply chain. I've developed concepts that were farm to table. We called it farm to fork for fun. But I've had a pretty long history of caring about where the food that goes on the plates at the restaurants I serve food at comes from. And so this is right up my alley. I hope those who are listening find it interesting. I hope that it inspires you to look deeper into your supply chain and your system to learn more, understand more, and then be proud of it. And maybe you're making a change, maybe you don't, but be proud of what you serve and know why it is you serve what you serve. So that's the overarching theme of this show. This is episode 3, bringing these two gentlemen, Cameron Molberg, Diego Diverde, to the table from Greener Pastures Chicken. Gentlemen, welcome to the show again.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Troy.
Yeah, happy to do it. The quick overview of Greener Pastures Chicken is this is a very special poultry farm. It has a very clear mission. It was founded on a very purposeful mission. And that's where we're going to start today. We've heard what hospitality means to these two gentlemen, but let me ask to start off with, on the same vein, Cameron and Diego, when you think about a poultry farm and a processing plant and your intentionality behind what you're doing, how do you bring hospitality to your business? So, in thinking about your employees and your customers and your end users, how do you deploy hospitality in your business model?
Yeah, I think it boils down, it's not that much different than the restaurant industry, to be quite honest. Everybody that we work with are people that we would, go to dinner with or share a drink with. But let's say more hands-on or down to earth. When we bring people out to the farm to show them what we do, we want them, like I said, I feel like true hospitality is that feeling, that experience that you get. Not just the food, it's the whole shebang perhaps. But when we have people come out to the farm, we want them to have that feeling. We want them to be blown away. And, it's always exciting to hear some of our customers, and actually a good deal of them will say, wow, when you sold us on pasture-raised chicken, this is not what we expected. Like we went above and beyond what their expectations were. They were expecting maybe a fixed house and some birds a little bit outside of the house. That's not what we do. And so it's always fun to get their reactions when they come out to the farm and the plant. I would hate I would say it'd probably be hard pressed to find anybody that was not some way impressed or surprised.
I definitely was. Diego, I'll let you answer it, and then I'm going to give a story about my visit.
Sure. No, Cameron couldn't have described it better. What symbolizes hospitality for our farm is the fact that we even do farm tours. As we kind of touched on in our episodes, just in our industry, there's not a lot of transparency. There's a lot of confusion as far as what consumers are actually getting, how that animal is raised. The fact that we even do the farm tours and extend that level of transparency is kind of to the point where we really make an effort here to find partners. We don't just see ourselves as suppliers dropping off some chicken, for it's, people who want to be proactive in the marketing and, spreading the word and making fun, content around what we do, so that we grow together. But yeah, to Cameron's point, the farm tour is the perfect way to kind of symbolize, what hospitality means to us. that they know it's not just dependent on a distributor as well. If the point of working with local is that, hey, we'll help you out if something happens. I mean, stuff happens in every restaurant. We all know this, and we do everything we can to make sure that we're providing the very best service on top of best in class products.
My story from coming to the farm is I did a little bit of research, had a little bit of an idea, definitely impressed beyond my expectations. Really got to understand the whys and the hows, and the fact that what the grasses are in that field are thought about, what the quality of the dirt is under that grass mattered, important distinction of the feed that you use. All these things were very interesting from a technical perspective. But when I think of hospitality, Diego made sure that as a part of hospitality, I believe that it's about making memories, and it's how you make people feel, certainly. And I felt very welcome and very well cared for, but even more so, very well informed. I left with a memory because we went out of our way to take a picture with the logo and the building. We also got a t-shirt. We got to go to the swag shop and pick a shirt. And so while Pepper Lunch is the sponsor of the show, I am wearing a Pepper Lunch shirt for those of you watching on YouTube. I do proudly wear my Greener Pastures very soft, very comfortable t-shirt. So part of hospitality is, A, did you ever think about going and doing a farm tour at a poultry farm? B, if you did and had, did you leave with swag? And did you take a group picture and proudly display the logo above your head? Probably not. So I would encourage all of our listeners in the industry, as you think about getting more involved in your supply chain decisions and in your partners on the supply of products, think about how you're treated and what they do for you when you go visit, if you do. All right, let's tell the story. Cameron, you're the CEO of this business. You're also the co-founder of this business. Why the heck did you start Greener Pastures Chicken with your partners? Tell us the history here.
Yeah, so just going back to my history, previously I'd been at a pasture-raised egg farm and organic feed mill because we were looking at trying to figure out this infrastructural problem. Like, how do we get this, more organic and high-quality foods to market? Over the years, I had dairy customers, I had swine customers, people that raised goats, sheep, you name it, beef, plenty of egg customers. But only seasonally were there people that were doing pasture-raised organic meat. And just knowing the demographics and that chicken is the number one protein consumed in the entire United States is just, years and years I was thinking about it, just like, why is nobody doing this? And again, it was, to be quite honest, it was an infrastructural problem. The reason why we can do it is we had built an on-farm processing facility. There's small processors out there and there's huge processors. So just going, if we were to work with a small processor, we would be limited at maybe 200 birds a week, 200, 300 birds a week. That you can't
Wow.
build a business off of that. And you can't really, you can provide high quality food to your farmers markets or your local community, but we wanted to do it on a bigger scale. We had worked temporarily, just actually one go around with a large scale processor. They were processing, I think, 300 birds a minute. So our first flock that we sent to them, our first and only flock, they were able to process them in 10 minutes. The problem that presented is that in a large plant like that, they have to break down and clean everything between production runs. So you have this huge plant that had to be go through pre-op again and restored to sanitary conditions after the 10-minute run of our birds. So they had basically 200 people on the clock for an hour and a half. So you can just think about an hour and a half, 200 people, what you're paying them just to clean up and the breakdown for the 3,000 birds that we ran. So that was too huge. It was not going to work for anybody. So we're stuck in the middle here, too small, too big. So just going back to like 2015, I was thinking to myself, gosh, if nobody does this, if I can't convince any of my customers to do this, then I'm going to find a way to do it. Coincidentally, one of the people I was working with, one of the suppliers that was selling, feed additives like probiotics, prebiotics, for our feed formulations from the feed mill, approached me one day and was like, hey, Cameron, I've been looking at this industry I've been working in the poultry industry at that time for, I think, I'm speaking about Paul, my business partner. I think at that time he'd probably been in the industry already 14, 15 years. And we were thinking the same thing. He came up to me and I was like, you know what, Paul, I've been thinking about this for a long time too. Nobody's doing it. Let's see if we can't figure a way to work together to make this happen." And he was like, "I think I got the right person to make this happen and have it all come together." Turns out Paul knew the contact for Vaughn and Vaughn Sr., Vaughn's dad. And so Paul went to Vaughn Miller and ultimately said, "Hey, this is what Cameron and I are thinking. Cameron's got experience in pasture-raised poultry and feed mill management and other things in organic industry for, close to a decade at that point. And Paul has a background in master's in poultry science, and Vaughn is obviously a graduate of poultry science at Texas A&M. And so Vaughn was like, it's funny that you bring this up. We've been thinking about the same thing. And so at that point, it was just like lightning in a bottle. Everything just lined up. And, we got three guys thinking the same thing, thinking about pasture-raised organic poultry, just coming out of the gate as like the pinnacle producer in the United States. And we set our sights on it and started, we hit the ground running in 2017, 2 years after that initial conversation, and built out our facilities at Elgin, and then toyed and basically refined those practices over the year. And now I think we have an excellent system that is highly sustainable and almost self-working, but we've got a highly knowledgeable staff. And now, as of 2023, we have our on-farm processing plant. So we finally got that last piece of the puzzle in place, and we're just ready to, grow this thing as much as possible.
Okay, well, we're going to reel this back a half a second because you said two things that need clarity, one more than the other. The first one is for those that don't know who Vaughn Miller is. Two-time Super Bowl winning, one-time MVP of the Super Bowl, defensive end, currently at the Buffalo Bills. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see a Denver Broncos helmet, one of several back behind me. Was formerly of the Denver Broncos and the LA Rams, of course. Vaughn Miller's a wonderful human being, a smart, intellectual individual, a savvy businessman. He surrounds himself with really smart people, quite obviously, even before this venture. But you said another thing that is not obvious. I didn't find out till he told me the story a couple months back. It's not overtly obvious to the world that Vaughn Miller graduated Texas A&M with a poultry science degree. And he told me the story of how the heck that happened by accident. But, when you look at NFL players and we think of these heroes and we think of these characters and these celebrities, boy, most people don't really think much beyond that. They don't really look into these folks' lives. You can watch some of these shows like Quarterback or Receiver or Hard Knocks, and you kind of get a little glimpse at their personality, but you don't really know what all goes into it. And I think until you're in an environment, and I've been fortunate to be in an environment with a lot of people, former sports and stars of that type, that they all had an interest before. They're real human beings, and the sports thing worked out, but most of the time they're preparing for it to not work out. And that was Vaughn's thing. He said, this was always the backup plan. If I didn't get in the NFL, I would have just gone straight to poultry farming. And I just had no idea. When you don't dig deep enough into people's backgrounds, you don't even realize where they're coming from. And that's a fascinating thing. So I want to give that context to the audience because it's really, really crazy cool. And how unique is that he too was thinking about getting in this business and leveraging his ability to resource a business like this. But boy, did he find the right guys, right? That just automatically happened to be thinking about it and got attracted to it. All right, so pick up the story. How old is the farm again? You built the farm, started the farm process, the building process, and where we're at today now is you have this plant on farm, which is very unique, very rare. It's been, what you said, 20, 30 plus years since somebody's probably done that. I toured that facility. It's a world-class, absolute amazing facility. I've had the good privilege as a previous chef and executive to tour a lot of facilities and processing plants. So I kind of do feel like I know the difference. And wow, really, really spectacular. Not just because it's new. I think you guys put a lot of thought into how it's going to be maintained in top condition. But tell us a little bit about what's the timeline now. You started this farm, and then how are we at? What does scale look like now? Where'd you start and where you're at?
Yeah, so when we started, we were doing small blocks. Gosh, I want to say we were doing, we really wanted to test out the facilities and make sure that we had everything dialed in. And we knew there was going to need to be adjustments, and it was going to take time to really refine our process. you can do it on a small scale. Like I used to tell my customers, if you can raise 100 egg laying hens, and you can raise 1,000. But going from when we started like 500 birds a week to what we're doing now, an average of 10,000 birds a week, that's a little bit bigger of a jump. So we really needed to test the systems and make sure everything's in place. We started off again at 500 birds a week just because processing options were limited. Then we increased that up to about 3,500 because we did find a processor slightly out of state that was able to handle that kind of capacity, but we were limited at that capacity. And so that was just going back to the drawing board from when we first planned the business, that we knew that if 3,500 birds a week was where we're going to top off with this processor, then we had to build our own facility because, again, right now we're doing an average of 10,000 birds a week. The plant capacity on a single shift is probably about 50,000 birds a week. At a second shift or a second line, then we could do 100,000 birds a week. So we have a lot of upward mobility at the present moment. But part of the reason, like with any business, you got to have a very close eye on your cash flow. I mean, we've got, birds in the field that take 50 some odd days to grow out. We've got feed in them, we've got labor in them. Um, and so I can't really go from 10,000 to 30,000 overnight because that would put us in a negative cash flow position. That's not a good way to run a business. But so we're incrementally scaling up and bringing on customers as we do that. And so at some point, this plant will reach capacity. And just going back to earlier conversation is like when we bring somebody in the door or into the program, we want that to be a long lasting relationship. We're not looking for one offs here or there. We really look at developing relationships and working with people long term. And so, we do carefully curate our customer base.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. Absolutely important to be able to have predictive production and know what's coming as far as reoccurring orders and be able to plan for that. You're not in a business that can tolerate high fluctuation of volumes when you've prepped for that scale and you implement that scale. It's really hard to pull back, and then you're stuck with product that you need to find a way to move, and then you're behind the eight ball rather than proactive. I think it's really smart. I think in this type of product too, alignment with a buyer, whether that's a chef at a fine dining restaurant or an institution or an education system trying to provide higher quality ingredients to their customer, which is students or employees or what that might be. Those are things that are not flash in the pan usually, and you want to confirm that. I appreciate that. I think it's really important. So, Diego, you're charged with telling the world on a very selective and very careful and very thoughtful basis as to who your partners will be. And you kind of started off, if I recall correctly, tell us a little bit about the story of how you ended up here, and then how you've curated that customer base from those top chefs and really close relationships with those restaurant partners, and then now you're in obviously retail, and that was very thoughtful execution. So talk us through the history of how the heck you got here, what you're doing, and how you're thinking through this sort of attraction relationship business.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, our this it's a new brand that does not have the baggage of commodity chicken. Just like last time, I'm not gonna name names. Everybody knows who the big chicken companies are, but we don't have that baggage. So us being a small farm to start, and as we're, sharing our story, across the internet or when we go to events or, just Austin's got a good local, culture. Everybody kind of knows everybody. So it's been just really important for us to try to, reach out to folks who are at the very best, I mean, with our farm being the best of the best within our industry. Naturally, we want to work with, with people who appreciate that kind of work. It's just in that transition of, products like this being available on the market and what people have been used to for the last, I don't know how long, right? As far as, chicken in this country, at least, but, the way I stumbled upon this farm was, a friend from college had recruited me to this. They had a processing plant we were testing out not far away, and I was kind of new to United Healthcare. I wasn't trying to leave, but I had a sample of the chicken, and that was it. I was like, wow, I really want to be a part of this, and I'm very grateful to Cameron, Paul, Vaughn. They've given me a ton of support and confidence, and just doing what I enjoy doing. I enjoy the creative part just as much as going out and finding great partners for us and, helping them reach their goals. But this farm has a lot to offer.
What I was thinking next for you, Diego, is you started off really knocking on those doors and building those relationships, very close, very carefully, small scale relationships. Those started to build up. How much of this has been inbound versus really 100% relationship networking, and how the heck did you get from a few local chefs and some local small retailers, specialty shops and things like that? How did you get from that to HEB, one of the larger mass retailers, quality retailers in grocery, and their specialty market product, Central Market? How did you get from where you guys started early on to where you're at today?
Well, as you can imagine, the very beginning it was like all outbound, like, just all over creation, doing what we can, but that's why it's been so important to be really intentional about how we put the story out there, because that becomes a reference for the rest of our, email marketing or what we put on social or how people find out about our farm. It's just, you got to imagine the other partners that we bring in become kind of like threads and an extension of our brand, right? So it just gets stronger and stronger over time as long as, the farm is delivering and people are loving the products and the service, then it's been especially gratifying in the last couple months, as you alluded to, getting a partner with HEB on this Central Market launch. It's just been really gratifying to see the reaction in stores. But now, since there's all these shoppers getting to, experience our chicken for themselves and take it home, now they're going to their schools and they're going to their restaurants, and it's definitely increasing the inbound leads that are, a lot of fun to try to work on and hopefully get across. It's just been a stronger and stronger effect over time.
Yeah, sometimes that success breeds a lot of noise, right? You have to explain to people the intentionality of how you're, and then we're gonna have a drinking game. Every time I say intentionality, somebody should take a drink. I think it's like 4 or 5 times now. But truly, that you guys are thoughtful. That look, this is not a one-off deal. If you're interested in this product, you're interested in working with us in long term. That's a different business model. It's a different relationship model that I think is important, especially at this phase of your business. But I'm sure that it creates a lot of knocking on the door, so to speak, and hey, can I get some of that for one reason or another? In part of that, you guys did stand up and are expanding your e-com business. Talk a little bit about that. That might satisfy some of that curiosity and one-off and early trial, right?
I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, the e-com, we sell to, Central Market and hopefully HEB relatively soon. But there's communities and people in between these stores. There's people, I mean, there's 28 million people between Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston. I mean, well, actually, I think it's like 24 million. So I was a little bit off. But still, I mean, all that being said, I mean, there's millions of people in between, where some of these real retailers are. And so, the e-commerce allows us to reach those people directly. It's usually next day delivery, if not second day delivery, and they get to bring it home, have that fresh chicken, and put it in the fridge and cook it for the family. I mean, I think it's a huge opportunity this day and age to be able to capitalize on e-com.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, and be careful what you ask for. It could be one of those things that blows up, right? Depending on branding and all the fun stuff. Let's educate the audience a little bit. We're talking about this chicken. We're all talking about how amazing and spectacular this is. Let's say the whys. You guys have a bunch of badges, a bunch of patches, a bunch of labels that nobody understands what the heck they mean. We think we do, and then we find out we don't. So we can educate the audience again a little bit as we did in our one-on-one discussions, but free range versus cage free, all these kinds of terms that are really marketing terms on egg packages for the most part, and some on the poultry protein product. But that interesting, cute. Let's educate the people and they'll learn something they didn't know today. But let's also focus on the badges you have, the certificates you have, and why they matter and how that translates to the experience of the product and how you feel and what it does for you in your nutritional profile.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're to go through them. We're USDA certified organic, non-GMO project verified, certified humane, Go-Tex, and real organic project certified. And did I say regenerative organic certified? Okay. So we've got them. Those are all of them. And it's not easy to have all those certifications. Like just the organic certification alone. I mean, the cost of this certification is probably, oh, I don't know, maybe $3,000 to $5,000 a year. But on the back end, to be able to administer the certification, actually, I take that back. It's probably closer to $12,000 a year. But on the back end, it costs about $60,000 just to manage that project or that program. On top of that, we've got, again, the other certifications which have their costs, and then, all the associated documentation and testing and soil testing and everything to validate, our organic systems plan or our regenerative organic systems plans. And then, we have people come out, auditors for each one of those certifications to come in and inspect to make sure that not only is our paperwork up to snuff, but, everything in the field and everything, they do employee interviews, which I'm not part of. They interview each employee individually. So they put together a narrative. So this is very, like as it relates to like Diego saying commodity chicken, they're very closed off. They don't let people in. But even from a customer or regulatory transparency perspective, we let the auditors in. We let them come in to see basically the nuts and the bolts of the operation. But going to like the organic certification, okay, I mean, that's just general land stewardship and the welfare of the livestock. We don't want to utilize anything that's going to harm the environment. We want to improve our soil health and soil quality, and we want to make sure that we're providing an environment for the chicken in this case that is suitable and in line with their natural behaviors. So that's that component. There is a little bit of consumer confusion that we play into, and that's with the non-GMO project. Not all consumers understand that organic means non-GMO. So we do have the non-GMO project certification in addition to the organic to make sure that, for those individuals that don't know that organic means non-GMO, that we do have that and that we have covered that topic. That is a completely separate certification and has its own inspection and whatnot. Real Organic Project, the Real Organic Project is, there's a lot of companies out there that, have like split production. You know, uh, I'm not going to name names, but, they may have an organic sector of their business and then they have a conventional line of product. And then they'll market their brand mostly in alignment with the organic and then basically slightly confuse the consumer to think that basically all their product is organic. With the Real Organic Project, you're all or nothing. It's a farmer-led certification. So we're part of a group of organic farmers across the United States that share these values that we're committed to exclusive organic production. There's other components of it too that extend into the welfare of the birds and certain lifestyle components, like providing at least 8 hours continuous darkness, no physical modifications to the birds. But the other big component is no hydroponics in organic production because organic production is soil-based system. Regenerative organic certification, wow, that's a big one. That is the most invasive and time-consuming inspection and process I've ever gone through in my life. I've been through probably over 50 organic certification inspections in my life, and I'd be hard pressed to say that any independent individual has probably gone through as many as I have because I mean, there's definitely people out there that have done it more than me, but most people only do it on an annual inspection and occasional surprise inspections. But the regenerative organic certification takes into not only the welfare of the bird, enhanced soil health, looking at different metrics in terms of building organic matter and nutrient profiles within the soil, but it also takes into account like a social welfare component. We have to pay a living wage. We have to treat our employees fairly. We have to allow them to basically conduct themselves as free individuals as anybody really should actually be allowed to do. I mean, they should be able to, so long as, I mean, we're talking about humans here. They should be allowed to act like humans and do what humans do. That's a David Byrne reference. He has a song that I really like. But all that being said, I mean, every single certification that we has adds a little bit more value to what we do, and it's there to convey to the consumer that we're actually doing what we're saying we're going to be doing. We're not leaving it up just to marketing. We're not, greenwashing or, just we're not getting too clever with our marketing and just letting the consumer fill in the blank. We're actually walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah, I think that's quite the difference. It is all still confusing, but I think you've clarified a bit of it. Let's really clarify one or two things that I think the consumer is most confused about, because I really want this to be educational, particularly as consumer, but also as decision makers in the supply chain and sourcing business in the restaurant industry, particularly, or all of hospitality, or anybody else who's listening in that field. Um, What's the difference between free range and pasture raised?
Diego, do you want to take this or do you want me to take it?
I mean, I can take it, but I mean, if I had to describe it simply in layman's terms, I mean, your average free range farm, that's denuded dirt, the birds don't really go outside, just really means outdoor access. There's nothing grassy, if you will, about free range. And their water and their food's inside, basically. So free range is very misleading. Can't tell you how many times over the years that people were excited to tell me, "Oh, you guys are free range," and I'm like, "No, this is way beyond free range. It's beyond organic." So pasture raised being, these birds get fresh grass every day. Our birds will start out in the brooder as little chicks, and we need to make sure that they're mature. Again, this is to the level of transparency that we're all about. So, people understand, but our birds spend over half their lives on the grass, and that as opposed to all grain feed, if you will, for the whole lives, right? That grass is a huge component of their diet, their lifestyle, their stress levels, right? Them having a good, natural, happy, healthy life. It's a big, big difference. And what you alluded to earlier, as far as like why would the Texans procure our products, is because we're bringing a better nutritional profile, to our customers.
Yeah, I think it's a really important distinction. And having seen it firsthand, it is far more labor intensive of a process compared to any form of traditional. Look, I think cages are out across the board for most consumers, but being free range just means not in a cage. It doesn't mean you're not confined in a 24-hour light box that they're just packed in there versus you guys have a density requirement. I'll tell you, as an example, as an interesting parallel is when Ora King salmon came to market. One of the big things was that it is ocean farm raised salmon in New Zealand, but there's no human runoff or human direct interaction with the environment for at least 30 miles. They are in a 98% to 2% water density, so there's 98% water to 2% animal. So tons of free range movement and fresh flowing water and this kind of thing, compared to a pond or a pool or a vat of some kind. So, I kind of akin it to that of, man, these birds have it pretty good. There's grubs and crickets and grass and, and minerals and rocks and all kinds of things they might come across and be able to pick at and peck at. But pretty big distinction. And I do think it comes through 1,000% in the quality. Diego, you are tasked with communicating this, and you're communicating it in a variety of methodologies of media, which is your primary experience and background. How are you going about educating the market consumer to help create demand, and also B2B educating the supply chain buyers who pass this through, whether it's restaurants, hotels, institution, education, or retail? I think you've got a different way than let's say some of the big names that run commercials on traditional media, and like you said, sort of maybe confused us or greenwashed us. But tell us a little bit about your vision and how you're bringing the messaging to the market.
So trusting in that, most of your audience, I imagine, is kind of like decision makers in food. When it comes to the B2B side or talking to buyers, it's definitely about, to the point you were making earlier about certifications. There's a psychology of persuasion, if you will, right? And certain things that you can really focus on to make sure that people are on the same page with you and really excited about it, and they would be a good fit, right? So that's the whole point of the certifications, is bringing authority, right? Create a lot of fun content. They got to like our farm. They got to be excited to work with our farm. It's got to be more than just a supplier dropping off some chicken. We try to be consistent with our messaging, just focusing on all the different value sets that we bring, whether it's the call outs we bring to the menu, local, organic, pasture raised, the regenerative farm, but also again, not just the call outs, but the kind of customers that we've been able to attract. I mean, it's something aspirational. There's something very aspirational to the brand that we're bringing. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the other half of it, not the B2B, but the B2C, it's making it fun, making it, and that's why we shoot for the best chefs. We always try to work with the very best chefs, and they always have fun projects. We just promoted chicken pop-up yesterday with some really talented young chefs. Just find fresh ways, to get the word out and build on that, and make sure that nothing's too stale, because I think before this farm, there's the saying, it just tastes like chicken, and I think this farm is rightfully redefining that, I think, in a really special way, because beyond the marketing stuff or the call outs, there's the real true value of the product. It's better texture. That's why top chefs love it. Better nutrition. That's why top athletes love it, rich, clean flavor. These birds are getting fresh grass every day. So there's just a lot there, and it's a privilege to be able to spread the word, and been very gratifying to see the progress in a short amount of time. I mean, I just hit my 3 years with this farm, and it's been a real blessing.
Well, I'll tell you, that wasn't scripted, but you literally answered my next question, because we've talked about the what, the how, the why about this entire project. My next question was going to be the benefits, which you've just outlined. Superior experience for the consumer, the chew, the flavor, texture, all of that. And even the presentation of it, quite frankly. Cameron talked a lot about that in our conversation one-on-one. Go back and listen to that for the audience about really what the difference between these mass-produced sort of product and this really specialty product is in regards to the physical appearance. You can appreciate as a consumer when you open the package about all this excess fat and pieces that aren't there, because the birds do get exercise and get to move about on different apparatuses and things early in their life. So I think that was very fascinating. Go back and listen to that. Let's move the conversation on to sort of newer markets. You guys did something that attracted my attention, and that's how we came to know each other. And that is, somebody over there had a cute idea that I don't think you guys necessarily knew the road you were going down until you got into it. But you decided to create a restaurant brand for this chicken. So the chicken farm owns a restaurant brand, direct, vertical, wholly owned, single supplied business model. Very, very as vertical and direct and short distance as it gets. What did you do? Why'd you do that? How'd it go? And what's next for that?
I'll let Diego answer that because it's his brainchild.
Yeah, it was honestly a happy accident. I was just cold calling one of these virtual kitchen groups, just seeing if maybe any of their partners might be interested in our products. And as we were going through discovery, they found out about Vaughn, and Dan, of course, Troy, that's a connect with us. He's like, well, you can make a virtual kitchen around Vaughn. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I don't know I don't know anything about this. So you spent like I'd say a good year and a half just getting educated on what all this is, and partnered with an amazing local chef, Eric Silverstein. He's got the Peach Group out here in Austin. So anybody who's been to Austin to Peach Tortilla, Bar Peach, they also do Peach Social, like catering. Amazing chef, really talented chef. Helped us develop wings that were, within the flavor profiles that Vaughn really likes. So that was mainly Asian, Mexican. And so we launched into, I think we got up to 27 locations virtual through Mexican Restaurants Inc. And now we're transitioning to a more long-term franchise model that we're really excited about. So there's just a lot of excitement there with partners we have lined up for that. And I don't know, it's just with some of if you think about big chicken, right? Like you're raising canes and tenders, or your bucket of drumsticks, KFC, um, wing stop, right? In order to fill all those orders, that is definitely not chicken like ours, right? So it's been trickier to find good partners for products like that. It's allowed us some flexibility to see, how far we can take that. And I think that's to be determined, but I feel very confident that we found the right partners to expand on that program. I know Vaughn's very excited about it. And would this be a good time to talk about the other football players that joined the group, or?
Yeah, look, it's part of scaling the entire farm business, right? There's a lot of investment. Let me touch on this restaurant concept real quick. The idea that a farm created a restaurant concept, and it's all the same ownership, it's the same operations team, it's the same brain trust. The amount of thoughtfulness that goes into that is different from I've got grandma's recipe and I'm going to make a restaurant idea out of it, right? And there's just a lot of benefits and a lot of differentiation. And anytime you can take players out of the supply chain, and not that you won't need distributors and you won't need shippers and you won't need warehouses, but when you take sort of the resell out of it, and you can go direct to your own controlled environment into a restaurant brand. And in this day and age, as you did it through your test through virtual, and had great success and a lot of learnings and lessons there. And now you're partnering with operating partners and experienced people in the industry to bring this concept to light in a more of a traditional and non-traditional growth model within the restaurant industry. Nobody's ever done that before. I told you when I met you guys, and this is how we met on this, in sort of helping advise and be a sounding board for you guys in this process. Nobody's ever owned the farm, and not only own the farm, own the dirt, the grass, the feed, the protein itself, the processing plant, control the distribution from the back door yourselves all the way to the plate of the consumer through your own chef and your own ideation. And the amount of control you have and simplicity that brings translates in the product, right? Pure and simple translates in the product. And I've eaten it. Naked. Raw's the wrong word. Naked with nothing on it, and I've tried it in the recipes, and I've tried it in different venues. Other people making this product for us in different environments, and it just translates every time to a much better experience from anything, really. At the end of the day, so kudos to you guys and to Cameron for you and the partners allowing it, because I'm sure that was like, what do you want to do? We're trying to sell chicken over here. I think there's no better way to demonstrate your product than to actually control how it's produced, where it's produced, who gets to buy it, and how they get to buy it. And I think that is going to really disrupt. Look, you guys are disrupting on the agricultural production side tremendously. You're disrupting on the distribution, retail, relationship side of the business. You're not just selling to anybody as much as you can. And now you have this opportunity to come into the restaurant industry and actually disrupt in the B2C consumer facing experiential dining journey that the masses can have access to this product, making it convenient, making it affordable through, when you cut out people in the supply chain and these processes, you can afford to make this product accessible to more people. I'm just beyond excited for the journey that's going to take, and really give you guys big praise for being innovators and not being afraid. I think at the end of the day, you didn't know anything about the restaurant industry, so you found a couple of people and you got going, and then you found some more people, and like attracts like, and now you're going to take it to the next level, which I think is absolutely amazing. To your point of let's pick up where you started to go down. As you guys needed to build this production facility, as you guys needed to expand this, as Vaughn got out there and he told friends and folks in his sphere in the NFL community, he attracted some additional investors and partners in this business. Feel free to talk a little bit about that. I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. Vaughn's a linebacker, and I don't know, me not being in the NFL, I would never assume that a linebacker could be friends with a quarterback. They just seem like arch enemies. Turns out, Vaughn's talking up, Greener Pastures Chicken, as he always does, rightfully so. He's talking to some of his old buddies, and sure enough, one of them's Drew Brees, and the other's Pat Mahomes, and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's really interesting." And tell me more about it. So they continue talking about it, so months on end, and then at some point, Drew and Pat were just like, I think I want to be part of this too. And so now officially, we've got Pat and Drew as partners in the business as well. And I think Diego kind of came up with a marketing campaign around it, but it really screams to like, we've got one of the best linebackers in the league of all time. We've got Drew Brees, arguably probably one of the top five quarterbacks in the NFL of all time. We got Pat Mahomes, you know probably the best quarterback in the NFL right now, currently, and foreseeably for a long time coming. Um, and so, I mean, we've got these star athletes that are like totally gung ho about this high quality chicken, and it's just I don't know, it's just mind boggling to see the interest. I think it really resonates. The quality of the chicken resonates with them, like the nutrition. Going back to the Houston Texans, part of the reason why Houston Texans take utilize our chicken in their facility is because of the high quality nutrition. And so it really, again, it resonates with these folks. And I'll let you take it from here, Diego.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you've described it about as best you can. But I would add what we bring to the plate is just, you know, great for repeat business. There's just people are calling out for products like ours in institutions, in retail, in the restaurants, but they just haven't had as much access to it, and we're doing everything we can to amplify that message. And to the point Cameron just made, the hope is to do a campaign with all three players to amplify that message, which will, not just help feed our e-commerce, but also, get the word out, get more attention on why is this special, because it's very easy to underestimate the opportunity and the power of this farm and what it can do for our community and help transform other communities, other farmers. Right now, the average farmer is like what, Cameron, like at least 60,
60,
right? We've got to,
65-ish.
I think we bring so much to the plate to other farms. We always try to maintain a really healthy, friendly, neighborly relationship with other farms that are around us. This isn't about crushing all the other farms. This is something really special that we've been able to share, especially with other institutions and other small farms that are trying to figure out, okay, how do I get into institutions? How do I market my farm? We've always been kind of open door and friendly in that sense too.
Well, I'll say this: you certainly didn't need Mr. Mahomes and Mr. Breeze to invent your tagline, which is the chicken of champions, right? So, Greener Pastures Chicken is officially the chicken of champions, given their legacy and their high performance as athletes in their industry, and certainly the Texans. And it doesn't end there. We won't name names, but the NBA and other teams and other owners of teams and arenas and sporting venues have reached out. The word is getting out that this matters, nutrition matters. And by the way, I supported a call with you that the focus from the food operations group was really around sustainability, that they had chosen sustainability as a core value and a focus area of their business. And they weren't screwing around. They're talking about replacing all of the chicken in this building, which sells a lot of chicken, and they weren't I mean, they were excited about the whole value proposition, but to think that sustainability was so important to them and so core to their focus for this year's mission that they were willing to potentially change all of the chicken in a building, across all types of venue and food type models and cuisine models, is pretty fascinating, and also a very huge testament to the belief around not only have you created something that's real, you've taken it so far and above the minimum benchmarks required to achieve certifications. You're doing it with a whole mission driven purpose in mind, and I think that's beyond admirable. And I think you're again really actually going to change the industry. If somebody's listening and they have a restaurant brand and they resonate with this story, how do they get this chicken potentially? And I know this is about scale, and availability will be limited, and regionality will matter, sort of like a craft beer can only be shipped so far from its first brew house. But how can people learn more about Greener Pastures?
Yeah, I mean, Diego's largely one of our point persons. He's obviously our director of sales. So, you can always reach out to Diego at greenerpastureschicken.com. Go to our website. You can contact us at the info at. But Diego, I'm sure you might have a few additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the main one, yeah, just shoot me an email. It's pretty easy email, Diego at greenerpastureschicken.com. I'd highly recommend checking out the website. We just revamped our website. I think it's beautiful. We create a lot of great content around it, and it'll be a great primer for anyone that again, has a brand that either already aligns with our values or aspires to, bring those values to their customers, right? Again, being a real regenerative farm. I mean, especially here in Texas, we're running out of really good, high quality farmland by the day, just because there's that much development here, so there's real sense of urgency on a local level, to grow and show that growth to other farmers who would consider, adopting similar values. Yeah, Diego at greenerpastureschicken.com, or just check out the website and you can drop a message in there and somebody will get in touch.
Yeah, and if you're in the restaurant industry, hotel, hospitality, anything in the retail food and beverage sector, I am available to connect with. I'll connect you with these gentlemen. I'll give you my experience. I'll give you some inside baseball on how I think you might be able to use this in your brand. So this is the infomercial part. You stuck around to the end. You're going to get sold to. This is passing around the plate at the end of the Broadway show, however you want to look at it. But I think it's really important, again, if you're a decision maker, you have access to decision makers in the food chain, food supply business, that you are getting serious about where your food comes from, how it actually is made, what actually matters, what's real versus smoke and mirrors. And transparency is of the utmost availability in this relationship, because they'll just bring you out to the farm and tell you all about how and why. So I think it's a powerful opportunity, and I invite anybody to reach out to me, Diego, the farm. Don't miss the opportunity to follow Instagram, though. This farm's Instagram, how many chicken farms have their own Instagram account and that are actually informative and entertaining? This guy over here is making documentaries and movies and even memes. But and by the way, some beautiful food shots coming out as well. So whatever your fancy is on Instagram, Diego's trying to hit it all with everything they're putting out there. So follow these guys on
Thank
Instagram.
you, Trey.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate you putting up with a 3-show series talking about each of you and your journey in this brand, talking about the evolution of this game-changing innovation in the industry. And I wish you nothing but luck. Look forward to continuing to partner and support you along the way. And big things are ahead, and I'll be sharing more of those announcements with you guys in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Troy. This has been a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again, Troy. Appreciate you spreading the good word. Thank you.
Same. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.